Welcome back to In Another World with my smartphone. Anime review episode number 5. This is reviewing the 14th episode of the No More Smartphone, which is called Deserted Survivors and a Workshop. Basically, this episode adapts from chapter 1 of book 4. Yes, it adapts the whole chapter. Though it's mostly condensed, they also take two events, like one event that happened and another event that happened afterwards, and they kind of basically merge them together, which is kind of weird, and just drop a character. Yes. So, last week's episode ended with Lean going to the hot spring. Here, they're automatically in the garden, the Babylon Garden, which they got in the end of the last season of the show. And they're basically flying to this desert. Now, in the light novel, they're explaining this in the reading room of the mansion. Basically, what Lean is explaining where this place is. This is pretty much word for from the book itself, except that she's doing it in a different location. So basically, they fly to the desert, and then they come across some people running from this blue thing. In the book, this was a sandcrawler. Yes, it was a sandcrawler. What they decided to do was kind of weird. Was that they dropped the sandcrawler, replaced it with a phase. Yes, the phase. If you're curious about the phase, they are pretty much a big, humongous plot device in this series. You could kind of say that kind of one of the main villains of this whole entire franchise is these glass creatures. And basically what the show decided to do is take the Sandcrawler thing, drop that, and merge that with... It's like it took two scenes that happened, like one event, and then one... After when Ende show up. Yes, Ende. Excuse me. He makes a return to the series. Of course, if you're curious though, he appeared in a brief cameo at the end of episode 12 of the previous season of the series. Of course, we do see what happened afterwards. I'll get to that, don't worry. So, basically, he comes in and he deals the phase. Now, the stuff with him and the phase, that's all true from the book. Everything related to him is unaltered, and they do mention about the world barrier thing. That also becomes a major... Basically, you could say that is also set up for future stuff that we see over the course of the series. Yes, I know, because I'm reading it, and as a matter of fact, I actually own the 25th book released of the series. Well, here anyways. In Japan, they've already released the book, I think it's like 28, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, so... He deals the phrase pretty quickly, and then pretty much what they do is kind of interesting. It's like they move that up, and they put it at the same time as the stuff from the adventurers, and of course mentioned about the phase, and of course the fact that, Lean basically does bring up the fact that why would you not shocked the fact about that name? Well, she does bring up the events of the previous season show with Dr. Virginia Babylon. And Ende, where basically they show... I appreciate the fact they did this. You can say this flashback is basically kind of partially filling the gap between episodes 12 and 13. That's most what you put this flashback. Is this pretty much an original? No, this actually happened in chapter 1. It actually happened, I think at the start of chapter 1, but was cut out. Actually, chapter 2 of book 3, they cut out last week's episode, but here is a flashback. Perfectly fine. I have no issue with it at all. And they also mentioned apparently it's been years since they got this stuff, which, okay, I'm not really sure why this is. So, they kind of expand upon what exactly happened right after. If you're curious, what exactly happened at the conclusion of the first season of the show, right after Ende show up, where you have it where... Toya buys his food, and then pretty much they have him join the Adventurers Guild, and to see you again, and that's that. It's very brief, and this actually, if you love the first season, this flashback fills in that gap with Ende, which I'm glad the fact they remind people who the heck this guy is, because if you're curious though, do they explain who this guy is in the books? Yes, they do. What the heck is he? Not going to spoil it here, because basically it's a big spoiler that happens in several books' time, and his connection to... and here's the thing. He knows a lot about the Fays. Yes, he knows a lot because he has a... I will spoil this. He has a connection to the Fays. Not going to say what the connection is. He just has a connection. So, right afterwards, basically meet up with, well, the adventurers, the three, Rebecca, Will, and some young boy, I don't remember his name. Now, here's the thing. Rebecca actually gets a lot of lines in the episode. Will gets some lines. It's pretty much from the book itself. Now, they do bring up, basically, they do mention... Now, what happened with this scene is that it's a bit of a condensing here. They cut some stuff out, but it doesn't affect the story. You know what it does? It's more like side stuff. You could say it's like supplementary stuff that you could say, oh, you could say it is mostly put, just say, hey, read the book if you want basically got explanation. Yeah, read this book right here, book 4, to get an explanation exactly what happened. Like, it's a bit of, basically the book does expand upon exactly what they're bringing up here. But see, what happened is that in the book, they don't mention the episode, the fact they attacked a slave caravan, they killed the slavers, and took these ladies, and they took a way to use, basically, a way to remove these collars. They don't know how to. They'll die if they try to. So, in the book, basically, Toya just thinks about using a pair, but doesn't want to use it first, and they need to use it. Here, just a pair, that's it. Yeah, it's like really quick decision making. It's like no thought put into it at all. Yeah, this is actually kind of dumb on the part of JC's tap to rush this. Like, no hesitation, just like that. In the book, there's a bit of hesitation because he's worried about the girls. So, after removing all the collars, oh, by the way, the girls selected, they actually do show in the book that basically she was kind of just brought out there with a hand. Yes, brought with a hand and eventually is removed. And then they're taken back to Belfast. Well, first they're introduced to Yamina, which, yes, this whole scene is from the book. Like, pretty much word for word, it's like the same exact scene. And then, of course, they takes him back to his house in Belfast, which they actually cut out the moment where they actually call Liam their butler. Yes, they actually cut that out. It's very quick. Like, drop them off and then basically just... I'm assuming that he probably talked to his staff. You could probably assume, just by the quickness of this, that he probably talked to his staff off screen about why the girls were here and asked to take care of them. You can assume by basically just an animal perspective, he may have done it because later scenes they show him basically just relaxing at the mansion. No problem. Okay. So after the whole thing with the face stuff, and then of course, if you're curious, does Ende appear in the rest of the book? No, he doesn't. He does not. I don't remember him appearing in the rest of the book. I don't think he returns for about several books. And you might be asking, does the Goddess of Love appear in the book itself? No, she has not returned to book 6. I'm not kidding about that. She has returned to book 6. Where, I'm going to spoil this, they have posed as Toya's big sister. No joke. Seriously. That is pretty much what she's doing. I'm going to spoil that because it's kind of part of what she does. It's Karen. What do you expect? So, pretty much like right after they drop them off, of course, they actually just find the ruins they're looking for the whole time. They just uncover it pretty easily thanks to the garden. And then they have Toya go inside. Now, basically, this is very similar to happen toward... You could say this is basically the same exact scene as the ending of Season 1 in the penultimate episode of the entire first season of the show. And actually, more like episode 10. Yeah, it's first to almost the same scene. Except at the end of the previous season show, he goes on the water to get to the garden. Here he walks to he basically in the desert, just touches this strange dome. He's able to go in, but not the girl for some reason. They just touch the magic circle, transported there. There is definitely something different here. Well, first we're introduced to Rosetta. Yes. And if you're really curious, though, did in fact he do the things in the episode in the book? Oh, yes, he did. Like, okay, so basically what she wanted him to do is to guess the color of her panties. Which, yes, he had to do this book. He used wind magic. Yes, he used it in the book too. Fire magic. Yep, he used the book too. And he used basically farce, and he basically is able to see what her panties are. They describe as clear and transparent. That's mostly put exactly. Now, you might be curious though. Like, who is credited as a voice actor? Well, they actually do not credit her voice actor. I don't. Yeah, for some reason she goes Hi Rosetta or simply Rosetta. And of course, they also mention now apparently the place they found. Now Toya. Now talking to Francesca about this, what they mentioned about the frame gears, which okay, the frame gears, they also are a big plot device in the series. Basically, what they are is well, it's like small. The way they describe in the books, it's like they're smaller versions of the Gundams from Mobile Suit Gundam. Yeah. Or another equivalent is basically the size of the Ironmonger from Iron Man. Yep. Well, they got pilots and the fact that basically Toya named all of them after Valkyries. And he really wants to find the hangar just as much as Lean wants to find the library. Okay, perfectly fine. Yep. I'm just checking something here. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so I do have a credit who was credited voicing Hi Rosetta. Chad Saxton. Yes, a good voice actress. Good job on Crunchyroll's part for doing this. Yep. So, he's able to guess her panty color. Clear and transparent. And it's obvious by the animation she's not wearing any panties. Though she puts some on. They actually did cut that out, which, yeah, it's more sexual humor. Yep, that's pretty much what this is. This is basically adult humor. And of course, well, Francesca comes in. Of course, I mentioned about joining up with of course, they go inside what the workshop is. Basically, this cubicle thing. Not really clear description of the book per se. They just go in, and of course, they try out the copying. Excuse me, of the Brunhild, which is basically Toya's blade gun, which Toya's blade gun is black, and this copy is white. And pretty much it's not have the same programming as Toya's gun. So, and here's the strange thing though. Toya in the opening credits uses a particular color of her gun, not the black one. Not sure why they changed it for, but they do. Okay. And then, and of course mentioned about the frame gears. In fact, they can do material, but they can't exactly have the blueprints. That is in a different facility. So they had to do a couple different places to build the frame gear, because it seems like he's really excited about the frame gears. He's so excited about that. So that pretty much everybody's brought in. Of course, they merge together, and of course, they go home. And you probably think, okay, is that pretty much the episode in a nutshell? Where after they meet up with, after it meets up, oh, and by the way, I almost forgot to mention this. Rosetta doesn't say anything Francesca did last season. Oh, so to acknowledge him as the master, right after passing test, Just kiss him. Take his saliva. That's it. Yep, this hot android takes a kiss from Toya, which makes her now. The only woman he's kissed, the first woman he kissed was Francesca, but she forced it on him. So the only one who's kissed him, aside from those two, have been Yamina and there was one other one. Lens. She actually is the only girl who actually does kiss him in the anime. Yep. Now there are two girls. They haven't kissed yet. Yae has. Oh, by the way, Yae in the episode where she fights to the phase. Basically, what they did with it, they kind of basically put that ahead for some reason. So then, pretty much, basically, like right after the whole thing is done, then they go back home, and of course, they figure out something for the former slaves to do because they had no much talent. And Toya thinks of something. Oh, by the way, they also find at the end of the episode that he's, well, Yamina's fiance, a.k.a. the future king, basically the king of Belfast's future son-in-law. Yep, but he's not exactly noble, just not exactly proud, but basically it's still bowing anyways. But very funny scene. The whole moment itself is completely anime original. Him finding out that she's Yamina's fiance. They're coming from the manga per se, but I haven't read this portion of the manga. If in case you're curious, though, I have been reading also the manga adaptation of this book, too. The first I read is basically chapter 63. And I think the first they adapted to was like book 5. Yeah, seriously, book 5. Yep, but not much else to say this episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And, well, we still got 2 more, but, well. Now, here's the thing. So, book 3 is already all done. Okay, we're already starting up book 4. And if you're curious, though, how many chapters are in book number 4? Well, there are 4 plus 2 interludes. Now, if I can tell the title of next week's episode, and if you're curious, the title of next episode is called Collecting Books and a Library Cafe. Yes, from what I can tell, it seems that possibly next week's episode will adapt Chapter 2. And maybe the interlude. Maybe, I'm not sure. But I can definitely tell by basically the stuff with Episode 4, they will be adapting Chapter 3. Now, this girl here makes a debut in the book. Now, she technically made a cameo appearance in Episode 12. And you're thinking, really? She did? Who, you might ask? Well, Lucia. Yep. Book 4 is her debut. And I am very sure that she's going to be showing up in episode number 4 of the season. I'm sure of it. I'm really sure. So, we're going to see her show up. Now, in case you're curious though, okay, so in the anime, now, it was revealed at the end of the previous season he's going to be engaged in 9 women. We have only been introduced to 1, 2, 3, 4, only about 5 of them. Lucia is one of the 3 who have not been introduced yet in the series. Though we got a quick cameo for her at the end of episode 12 as it is for this season. And of course, we got the season. So that's pretty much what's going on there. And we might see her debut in episode 4. Who knows? We'll find out what episode happens. Yep. And from what I can tell, I think in the case of episode 4, I think they're going to finish adapting book 4 by that point in time. My guess. And then move on to book 5, presumably with episode number 5 of the season. Now, one thing I really hope, though, is the season's not 12 episodes, because, in case you're curious, though, there are 27 books. The first season only adapted toward halfway through book 3, and this first episode finished adapting book 3 already. Now, book 4, I don't think we're going to be here very long, book 4, so my personal hope is that this season will not stop book 6, but actually stop at book number 9. Anybody think if 12 episodes is it going to rush it? No, no, no. What I want to see is a 24 episode season. That's what I want to see for this season. 24 episodes. Not 12, 24. And if we get 12, okay. Can we get announced on a third season? I hope so. But we're only 2 episodes in so far, so there's that. Okay, so that's a particular view. Now you might be curious though, where is the Super Sentai review? I'm gonna handle it tomorrow because basically I really want to get this one done. So next up is a Comic Corner, and that'll be it pretty much for tonight. Okay, next video. Bye.